वासुदेवाय मम करोति वाचालं भङ्गं नन्दयति गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं श्रीगुरुं श्रीचैतन्येश्वर।
Mataji, till 30 we completed yesterday. 1.3.
Okay, 30 also completed.
Yes, I think Mataji. Sadhu Prabhu, Sadhu Jivana, Sadhu Prabhu.
Okay, okay. Because I thought that I have to start from 30. If it is completed, we'll start from 31.
Yes, Mataji. 25 he started and he finished it till 30.
Till 30, yes, Mataji. He completed till 30.
Yeah.
Okay, good. So then we'll start from 31.
Yes.
Okay. So we are in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 3, Text 31. Anybody can repeat the verse, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji.
Priya Mataji, yes.
Someone
Yeah.
is repeating.
Yeah, Shanmuga Priya Mataji raised her hand. Maji, are you ready to repeat?
Yes, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Yatha nabasi megaugo
Yata namasi me gaugo
renurva parthivo vanile
renurva partivo nile
evam drishtari drishyatvam
evam drishtari drishyattam
aropitam abhudibihi.
aropitam abhutibi. Hare Krishna. Mataji.
We read the translation and purport, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah.
The translation, Mataji, screen.
Yes. Is it visible?
Bigger size, please.
Want to increase the font.
Font size open.
Can anyone help me how to increase the font?
Hare Krishna Mataji, you can go to
Hare
setting.
Settings.
Yeah, there's settings. You can see in your menu on the top.
This is stop mute.
Where Bhakti Vedanta Vedabhis is written, you can see on the right hand side menu settings.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, in that settings. And increase the font. Okay, yeah. Thank you, Mataji. This much is enough or you want to release more? Is it okay, Mataji?
It's okay, Mataji.
Okay.
Translation and purport given by A.C. Bhakti Vedanta. Thank you, Bhakti Vedanta. Translation. Clouds and dust are carried by the air, but less intelligent persons say that the sky is cloudy and the air is dirty. Similarly, they also implant material bodily conceptions on the spirit self. Purport. It is further confirmed herein that with our material eyes and sense, we cannot see the Lord, who is all spirit. We cannot even detect the spiritual spark which exists within the material body of the living being. We took to the outward covering of the body or substantial body of the living being, but we cannot see the spiritual spark within the body. So we have to accept the living being's presence by the presence of his gross body. Similarly, those who want to see the Lord with their present material eyes or with material senses are advised to meditate on the gigantic external features called the Virat Rupa, for instance. When a particular gentleman goes in the car, which can be seen very easily, we identify the car with the man within the within the car. When the president goes out in his particular car, we say there is a president for the time being. We identify the car with the president. Similarly, less intelligent men who want to see God immediately without necessary qualification are shown first the gigantic material cosmos as the form of the Lord. Although the Lord is within and without, the clouds in the sky and the blue of the sky are better appreciated in the connection. Although the bluish tint of the sky and the sky itself are different, we conceive of the color of the sky as blue. But that is a general conception for the layman only. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much. So this is a technical verse again. And we are actually reading out the Vishwarupa. Here the discussion is about Vishwarupa. In the previous verse, the Viradarupa or Vishwarupa form of the Lord was discussed. And before that, we have actually crossed a lot of incarnations, various incarnations of the Lord. The scheduled incarnations were given. And then later, the Vishwarupa form is given. So what is Vishwarupa or Viradarupa? What it actually means? Can anyone say? As you have completed the previous verse, what is your understanding about the Vishwarupa?
It's a material manifestation of the Supreme Lord.
Okay.
It's for the material universe only. It doesn't have a permanent residence like a Vaikuntha or a Goloka Dham. And it comprises of all the demigods.
Okay. Yeah.
And that was not, it was not blissful form, Mataji. It was because even Arjuna was asking that day, he's feeling fearful after seeing this Rupa. So it was not
for devotees.
Yeah, for devotees, it is not blissful because they think this, they don't want that big form to believe that he's God. They just want his normal form.
Yeah.
That we saw. Hare Krishna.
Nice. Thank you, Mataji. Thank you. So actually, how can we understand this Viradarupa in a simple way is the Lord enters the universe. From Karnodaksha Vishnu, from his pose, lot of universes were come up. And from each universe, the Lord enters as Garbhodaksha Vishnu. Okay, we have seen 3 types of Purusha incarnation in the scheduled form. So in that, the Lord enters and the Shirodaksha Vishnu is acting as a super soul of the universe, as well as for each living entity, he is acting as a super soul. Okay, so the Lord enters the body. So similarly, here also it is given. There is wonderful examples are given. The spirit soul, we are not this body. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly given in the 2nd chapter itself, we are not this body, we all are spirit soul. So when the spirit soul enters into a particular body, we are assuming that we are this body, this external body. Similarly, the Lord enters into this universe and created many material elements and created the living beings also. So he enters into this body, and the people who don't know the transcendental position of the Lord, they actually misunderstood, or they actually considered the Lord form as this universal form. Okay, this is for the neophytes. They specifically mentioned that this is for neophyte. Similarly, when we are in ignorance, we are falsely thinking that we are this outside body. Okay, so because of ignorance or because of less understanding, we cannot understand the transcendental position. Those who could not understand the transcendental position of the Lord, for them that universal form is recommended because the Lord enters. Similarly, the spiritual spark enters into this physical body. We are misidentifying ourselves with this body. Okay, this is the difference between, or this is a general relation between Vishwarupa, means the universal form of the Lord, and the physical form of the living entity. Okay, actually, even though we are because of our presence, in the sense, because of the spiritual spark's presence only, this outside body is working. Similarly, because of the presence of the Lord only, this whole material universe is actually running. But we cannot see the Lord directly. Similarly, we cannot see the spiritual spark within each living entity. Can we see the spiritual soul or spirit soul of each living entity directly? No. Only Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini. So those who are actually the learned scholars, those who are actually self-realized souls, they can only see the presence of Paramatma in each and every living entity. As a normal person, we cannot see that, oh, that spiritual spark in that body is different. This spiritual spark in this body, we cannot actually differentiate. We cannot see through our material eyes. So similarly, we cannot see the Lord through material eyes. So that is a relationship between the universal form of the Lord and the physical form of the living entity. Okay. Here actually 2 points are given. Clouds and dust are carried by the air. So actually from this sentence, what is our understanding? Which one is more powerful? Clouds and dust are carried by the air. So the air is powerful. The air carries the dust and air carries the clouds. Okay. So the air is actually powerful than clouds and dust. But less intelligent persons say that cloudy, the sky is cloudy. So what does it mean? The clouds cover the sky. The sky is the outer space. Can the cloud actually cover the sky? No. But generally, we used to say that, no, the sky is cloudy and the air is dirty. See, the air is dirty means it actually, the dirt spoils the air. So this dirt is actually lesser power than the air. Sorry, the dirt is actually lesser power than the air. How can the dirt covers the air? It is not possible. But because of our less intelligent, we are actually assuming or saying that the air is dirty and the sky is cloudy. And another important point is they cannot actually mix each other. The sky is cloudy means it doesn't mean that the clouds enters into the sky. The sky is different and the cloud is different. Okay. Similarly, the dusty air means it doesn't mean that the dust or in the air, dust actually mixed with the air. No. After some time, the dust will go off. So the air remains as air. Wherever it goes, it actually smells in the different way. The favors will be different. Okay. Similarly, the air remains as air. But because of our understanding, we are thinking that, okay, the air is dusty and the sky is actually cloudy. So there are 2 main points. Because of our understanding or intelligence, we are thinking in a wrong way. And the second one is they both are different elements. It's the same thing, the same point applicable to each living entity also. Okay. The Shastra says that we all are part and parcel of Krishna. So the Krishna is the transcendental completeness. He is full of transcendentality. But we, the part of parcel of Krishna means we are also the spiritual spark, transcendental part. Okay. So this transcendental part, when it is entering into the material body, it gives life to that body. So does it mean that they both are same? Or does it mean that they both mixed up? No. It always different. The individuality remains. We can say that individuality. Because this material body, this gross body is made up of gross elements. What are they? Earth, water, fire.
Earth, water, fire,
Water, fire, ether.
Water, fire, air, water.
That 5 elements. Okay, Panchabhuta. It is made up of 5 elements. But our spiritual spark, the soul, is actually made up of transcendental thing. And this has a form. This gross body has different form. According to our karma, according to our desire, we are getting different form. So the gross body, even though the elements are same in the all living entity, but the body takes different form. And within this gross body, one more element is there. What is that?
Mind, intelligence, false ego.
Yeah, very nice. That is Sukshma Sarira. The Sukshma Sarira contains mind, intelligence, and false ego. Can we see at least that one? It is material or spiritual? That Sukshma Sarira?
Material.
It's material.
material, subtle.
Yeah, subtle means material. Okay. But can we see the material body? That material body which is made up of these subtle elements?
No,
No.
Mataji.
We can't see. We can't even see the material elements. Because of our limited senses, we can see only limited elements. It doesn't mean that it does not exist. It's there. It's there in each living entity. But we don't have that power to actually see that element. Okay, that subtle elements, we can actually feel it. We can perceive it. Because of their activity, he is an intelligent person. His mind is working very fast. Because of his ego, he is doing like that. So we are actually feeling, perceiving through their activities, but we cannot actually see them directly. We can't even see our own mind, intelligence, and ego. So similarly, it's applicable to everybody. So these examples are actually these examples shows that we cannot identify ourselves. Means because of ignorance, we are actually misidentifying ourselves with the external body, but we don't have that capability to understand these things. So there are 3 items in each living entity. One is the spiritual spark, and the second one is gross body, which is made up of material elements. So our senses are very limited that we can't even see that material elements, the subtle body. And the third one is our external gross body. Okay. And another nice example is given in the purport. So for our easy understanding, we are actually identifying the president car as president. Okay, so similarly, we are simply saying that, oh, president is coming. When his car moves, we are simply saying that the president is coming. So we are identifying the person with the car. Similarly, each person possesses the spiritual spark, but we are identifying them with their gross body. Am I right? So here also it is given. But even though we are actually identifying with their gross body, they are not the gross body. They are actually the spiritual elements. Like the president. Okay, president in a car. So shall we move on to the next verse? 1.3.32. Who is going to read this, Mataji? Shailaja Mataji?
Yes, Mataji.
Okay, thank you. Atha param yada vyaktam
Atha param yadavyaktam
avyudha guna brimhitam
abhyudab guna brinditam
adrishtarishta vashtuspad
adrushtarustravastitvat
sajivo yat punarbhavaha.
sajjivo yat punarbhavaha. Shall I
You can-
continue with the translation,
Yeah,
Mataji?
yeah, please.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Shri Prabhupada. Beyond this gross concept of form is another subtle concept of form, which is without formal shapes and is unseen, unheard, and unmanifested. The living beings have his form beyond this substantially. Otherwise, he would not have repeated births. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Shall I continue, Mataji?
Yes, Mataji.
As the gross cosmic manifestation is convinced as the gigantic body of Lord, so also there is a conception of his subtle form, which is simply realized without being seen, heard, or manifested. But in fact, all these gross or subtle conceptions of body are in the relation with the living beings. The living being has his spiritual form beyond this gross material or subtle psychic existence. The gross body and psychic functions cease to act as soon as the living being leaves the visible gross body. In fact, we say that the living being has gone away because he is unseen and unheard. Even when the gross body is not acting, when the living being is in sound sleep, we know that he is within the body by his breathing. So the living beings passing away from the body doesn't mean that there is no existence of living soul. It is here. Otherwise, how can he repeat his birth again and again? The conclusion is the Lord is externally existence in his transcendental form, which is neither gross nor subtle like that of the living being. His body is never to be compared to the gross and subtle bodies of the living beings. All such conceptions of God's body are imaginary. The living being has his eternal spiritual form, which is conditional only by his material contamination. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. So, in the previous verse, through that verse, we we came to know that 3 types of existence in each living entity. One is the spiritual spark, the second one is subtle body, and the third one is gross body. Okay. Now the qualities of those bodies are given. So beyond this gross conception of form is another subtle conception of form, which is without formal shape. So the gross body has a particular shape. Through that shape, we can identify the body as so and so. Okay. But the subtle body, which contains the material elements, even though it contains the material elements, it doesn't have any particular form. Can we say that, oh, mind will be in this form, intelligence will be in this form? No, it is formless actually. Okay. Subtle conception of form, which is without formal shape and is unseen. We cannot see them. Unheard. We can actually only feel them. We cannot hear in the sense we cannot hear from the mind. And unmanifest means it doesn't have a form. Same thing. Manifested means it has a particular form. Unmanifest means it doesn't have form. So the living being has his form beyond this subtlety. Otherwise, he could not have repeated births. But the living being has his form in the sense the living being means the spiritual spark. It has a particular form. Okay. Beyond this subtle element. But the subtle element doesn't have form. The gross body has the form. Similarly, the spiritual spark also has a particular form. So the quality is given in this verse. Okay. And further, Prabhupada explained in his purport, as the gross manifestation is conceived as the gigantic body of the Lord, then there is a conception of his subtle form. So similarly, we are identifying ourselves with this gross body. Similarly, the universal form of the Lord is considered as his gigantic body, means the gross body of the Lord. Then there is subtle form. Like we, physically, we also have a subtle form. No, similarly, the Lord also has a subtle form, which is simply realized without being seen. We cannot see that one. Even though we cannot see our own subtle bodies, subtle elements, similarly, we cannot see the subtle elements of the Lord. Okay. But in fact, all these gross and subtle conception of the body are in relation with the living beings. But it is related to us. We can say that this is my mind, according to my intelligence, according to my ego. So this actually belongs to each living entity. Even though we cannot see them, so we can only feel it, but still we are claiming that it belongs to each living entity. The living being has his spiritual form beyond this gross material and subtle psychic existence. Like these subtle elements, we can feel it, no? Similarly, there is a existence of the presence of the spirit soul in each living entity. So here they are actually the existence of the soul is mentioned, clearly mentioned. How we can experience, how we can actually understood the real concept, that is nicely explained in this verse. The presence of spiritual spark. Even though the subtle elements we cannot see, it doesn't have the form, but we can feel that the presence of them. Similarly, that spiritual spark is present in each living entity. In fact, we say that the living being has gone away because he is unseen and unheard. So, see, when the spiritual spark actually left from the body, still, how we used to say, how do we know whether the person is alive or not? How can we differentiate?
The breathing.
Breathing.
Yeah, through breathing.
Heartbeat.
Moments, Mataji.
Yeah,
Heartbeat.
yeah. Or especially breathing. If the heartbeat is fine, means externally we can immediately identify through breathing only. Okay. But when the person is sleeping, the gross body means the outside body is not working. So can we immediately claim that this body, he is dead? No, because the breathing is there. So it shows that through that we can understood that the person is alive. Means the subtle elements are working, the inner organs are working, and the spiritual spark is present there. So we know that he is within the body by his breathing. So the living beings pass away from the body does not mean that there is no existence of the living soul. So when the living being passes away from the body, means when the spiritual spark left from this body, it doesn't mean that there is no spiritual spark. It's there because of its presence only. the whole body was working. We are able to do lot of work. So because all this functioning based on the presence of spiritual spark. So because we cannot see it, because we cannot actually know about it, because we cannot identify it, we can't say that it is not present. It is there in each living entity. So the presence of spiritual spark is confirmed. So what is the conclusion? The Lord is eternally existent in his transcendental form. As a spiritual spark, we, the living entity, possess the spiritual spark. Similarly, the Lord has full transcendental form. His body and his soul is non-different. But our body and soul is different because our body is made up of material elements, but the Lord's body is fully transcendental. So there is no difference between his body and him. Okay, there is no difference between his body and his soul. Okay, him. There is no difference. But for us, both are different. Okay, so we cannot actually, because we couldn't see the Lord, we cannot tell them that he is not present. His body is never to be compared to the gross and subtle bodies of the living being. Okay. So this was given us the light of the qualities of the spiritual spark and the qualities of the subtle elements. We'll move on to the next verse, 33.
Hare Krishna, shall I read, Mataji?
Yeah, yes, Prabhu. This is Prakash Rao, Prabhu.
Yes, yes, Mataji.
Yeah, please continue, Prabhu.
Yatra me sadasadrupe pratishidde swasamvidha avidyayatmani rute iti tad brahma darsanam.
Okay.
Hare
Could
Krishna, Mata.
Could you continue with the translation and purport, Prabhu?
Translation I can read.
Okay, I'll ask someone else to read the purport. Yeah.
Whenever a person experiences by self-realization that both the gross and subtle bodies have nothing to do with the pure self, at that time he sees himself as well as the Lord.
Okay.
Purport, big one.
Okay, no problem, Prabhu. We will go through it for you,
I have to
sentence by sentence. Thank you,
little
Prabhu.
difficulty in reading small letters. Hare
Thank you.
Krishna. Thank you.
So, okay. How can we understand? Sorry?
Sorry, Mataji. Sorry. Shall I read the purport?
No, we will go through it, Mataji, sentence by sentence. You can continue with the next ones. Okay, thank you. Thank you. So, how can we identify or how can we experience the presence of these things? The solution is given only by self-realization. Okay, so yeah, at a particular stage, we can actually identify or we can realize the presence of the spiritual spark. So the qualification needed to understand the presence is the self-realization. Through self-realization, one can experience the presence of gross and subtle bodies. These gross and subtle bodies, nothing to do with the pure self. And they can identify that these two are different. Gross and subtle is different and the spiritual, the soul is different. So when he actually understood this thing clearly, then he is a self-realized soul. Okay. And he is actually able to understand the transcendental position of the Lord also. So that person only can able to understand the position of the Lord. So the difference between self-realization and material illusion is given. So what is self-realization? Self-realization means
We are
To
not the
understand who I
body, we
am,
are spirit soul.
to
yeah,
realize who we are.
yeah, very nice. These things are easy to say. How many self-realized souls are here?
At least we know, Mataji, we are not the body. We are a soul.
Yeah, of course. The mercy of the Lord. Yes.
And we are servants of the Lord, yes.
Thank you. Okay. So which one actually prevent us to understand these things, this fact? Which one is preventing every one of us?
Ignorance, Mataji.
Ignorance, Mataji, ignorance.
False ego.
Yeah.
False ego.
Because of ignorance, we are
And false
covered
ego.
with false ego. and we are misidentifying ourselves as this body and bodily relations as our permanent relatives. The coverings takes place due to ignorance. So the reason is given why we couldn't understand it, because of ignorance. Such coverings are never effective in the person of the personality of Godhead. But the God is actually beyond these three modes. Knowing this convincingly is called liberation or seeing the absolute. So the perfect realization is made possible by adoption of spiritual life. How can we develop or how can we come out from this ignorance? The solution is also given by Srila Prabhupada. Only through spiritual life, by following the our sadhanas and association, we can actually purify our consciousness from these three modes and we can actually elevate ourselves to the transcendental platform, Suddha Sattva. The impetus for activities is generated from the self, but such activities become illusory due to ignorance of the real position of the self. So because of ignorance, because we are identifying ourselves with the body, we are giving priority to bodily related things. Okay. When, however, one meets the self by proper culture, what is that culture? Devotional service and devotional service and devotional activity. Both are same only, okay? A man who is engaged in the activities of the self is called Jivan Mukta or a liberated person. Here the self means Atma. If a person is doing the Atma related work, then he can actually elevate himself to the higher position, liberated position, okay? Jivan Mukti. The perfect stage of self-realization is attained only by artificial, not by artificial means, but understand only by the feet of the Lord, the lotus feet of the Lord. So how can one actually progress? By thinking about the Lord. So when we are actually discussing about the topics of the Lord, this is actually Atma related work. When we are hearing about the Lord, this is the transcendental activity. So these things actually help us to purify our consciousness. By continuing this activity, Chaito Darpana Marjanam, it purifies our consciousness. It will remove our contaminations. It will actually help us to come out from the ignorant part. Okay. And in everyone's heart, the Lord actually presents us, Paramatma, in everyone's heart. And from him only knowledge, remembrance and forgetfulness takes place. Okay. So when we are associating with the material modes, what happened? We will forget our real position. Okay. Because of the effect of these three modes, we get the false ego. Prakrite kriyamanani gune karmani sarvasaha ahankara vimudatma karta aham iti manyate. It will make us to think that we are the doer because of our associating ourselves with these three modes. Okay. But in the other way, if you are associating ourselves with the transcendental subject matters, with the devotees, with the Lord, by remembering the Lord always will actually help us to come out from these three modes. Then because of false ego, he desires to be an enjoyer of material energy. That's what ahankara vimudatma. We are thinking that we are the enjoyer and we are the doer. Okay, when the living entity prays to the Lord for deliverance from the clutches of forgetfulness, the Lord, by his causeless mercy, removes the living entity's illusory curtain. And thus he realizes his own self. So this can be possible only by the mercy of the Lord, by causeless mercy of the Lord. He then engages himself in the service of the Lord in his eternal constitutional position, means liberated condition. So all this is executed by the Lord either through his external potency or directly by the internal potency. So only by the causeless mercy of the Lord we can actually come out from these three modes, mainly from ignorance. Okay, so the solution is given. How can we understand our eternal position with the Lord? Next verse, 3.34.
Madhavi Mataji had raised her hand. Would you like to read Madhavi Mataji?
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Mataji, shall I repeat after you?
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah, please. Okay. Yati yesho paratha devi
यदि येषो परथा देवी
maya vaisarati matihi
माया वैसारति मतिः
sampanna eveti vidhu
संपन्न एविति विधुर
mahimni sve mahiyate.
मही महिम्नि से महीयते.
Yeah. Could you continue with the translation and puppet, Mataji?
Sure, Mataji. Translation by Srila Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada. If the illusionary energy subsides and the living entity becomes fully enriched with knowledge by the grace of the Lord, then he becomes at once enlightened with self-realization and thus becomes situated in his own glory. Mataji, shall I read the purport?
Yeah.
Purport by Srila Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Because the Lord is the absolute transcendence of all of his forms, name, pastimes, attributes, associates, and energies are identical with him. His transcendental energy acts according to his omnipotency. The same energy acts as his external, internal, and marginal energies, and by his omnipotency, he can perform anything and everything through the agency of any of the above energies. He can turn the external energy into internal by his will. Therefore, by his grace, the external energy which is employed in illusioning those living beings who want to have it subsides by the will of the Lord in the terms of repentance and penance for the conditioned soul. And the very same energy then acts to help the purified living being make progress on the path of self-realization. The example of electrical energy is very appropriate in this connection. The expert electrician can utilize the electrical energy for both heating and cooling by adjustment only. Similarly, the external energy which now bewilders the living being into continuation of birth and death is turned into internal potency by the will of the Lord to lead the living being to eternal life. When a living being is thus graced by the Lord, he is placed in his proper constitutional position to enjoy the eternal spiritual life. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So here actually 3 points are given. All the energies. The Lord means all his paraphernalia, everything related to him are transcendental. His name, form, pastimes, attributes, associates, and energies are all have the same transcendental potency of the Lord. Okay. So his transcendental energy acts according to his omnipotency. He has various energies. So he is actually utilizing his multipotency in different functions. Like the internal potency is acting in a different way and the external potency is acting in a different way. Okay. So this is the first point. All the energies are actually came from the Lord only. He is the possessor of all these energies, and according to his will, he is actually using all these energy for different function. Okay. Some energy, the same energy is as his external and internal. Okay, he is omnipotent. He can perform. The second one is he can perform anything and everything through the agency of the above energies. So he wants to do like the example is given. No, the good electrician actually he will utilize the same electricity for actually cooling and the same electricity for heat purpose also. So similarly, the Lord uses his different energy for different functions. Okay. And the second point is, if he wants, by his grace, the external energy which is employed in the illusion can be turned into the internal energy of the Lord. So the living beings are actually under ignorance because of the influence of the external energy of the Lord. Okay. This is the second point. So because we are connecting ourselves with the external energy of the Lord, we are undergoing these sufferings. These three modes, we are affected by these three modes, and when we are undergoing lot of sufferings. And if the Lord actually changes our energy, then we will also, and we can also understand our real position, and we will go back home, back to Godhood. This is the second point. Okay. So the Lord can actually subside. By the will of the Lord, he can anytime subside or change or turn the energy in each living soul. And the next one is very same energy then acts to help purify the living being, make progress on the self-realization. So this example is given. So why the Lord is actually keeping us under his external energy? Because if the Lord has a will, then automatically we may transform into his internal potency. As an expert electrician can change the function of the electricity.
Mataji, due to a karma, Mataji.
Our desires.
Our free will, which we misuse.
Yeah, because of our free will, we are having a lot of unwanted desires. Our list is keep on increasing. And because of our desire, we are under his external potency. Okay. So this is because of our desire. Krishna's willing is there. He is ready to actually turn up the energy. He is ready to actually turn out from the external energy to internal potency. He can do it at any time. But we are having such a strong desire that we want to continue our life in this external potency. So from this purport, it is very clear. This is because of our strong desire to dominate over this material nature. Okay. See, when a living entity is thus graced by the Lord, it doesn't mean that he is not showing mercy to us. We have such a strong desire. Our anarthas or our desires are very much contaminated. So it's not very pure. So first we have to identify ourselves, who we are, why we are actually here, what is the real purpose of life. If we understand all these things through real knowledge, then automatically we will try to come out from this external energy of the Lord. So once we actually understood our position, then automatically we will seek the grace of the Lord. The Lord is readily shower his mercy to every one of us. So, but we are not ready to take that type of grace from the Lord. So that is our misfortune. Shall we move on to the next verse, 35.
Dhanashri Mataji, would you like to read the next verse? You had wanted to read.
Yeah. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yeah. Could you repeat after me, Mataji?
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Chale.
Evam janmani karmani.
Evam janmani karmani.
Hi akartur ajanasya cha.
Hi akartur ajanasya cha.
Varnayanti sma kavayo.
Varnayanti sma kamayo.
Veda guhyani hritpatehi.
Veda guhyani hritpatehi.
Yeah. Continue the
translation.
Yeah.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thus, learned men describe the births and activities of the unborn and inactive, which is undiscoverable even in the Vedic literatures. He is the Lord of the heart. Or what also?
Yes, ma'am.
Both the Lord and the living entities are essentially all spiritual. Therefore, both of them are eternal, and neither of them has birth and death. The difference is that the so-called births and disappearances of the Lord are unlike those of the living beings. The living beings who take birth and then again accept death are bound by the laws of material nature. But the so-called appearance and disappearance of the Lord are not actions of material nature, but are demonstrations of the internal potency of the Lord. They are described by the great sages for the purpose of self-realization. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita by the Lord, that his so-called birth in the material world and his activities are all transcendental. And simply by meditation on such activities, one can attain because he is omnipotent, everything is performed by him naturally, as if done automatically. As a matter of fact, the appearance and disappearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his different activities are all confidential, even to the Vedic literatures. Yet they are displayed by the Lord to bestow mercy upon the conditioned souls. We should always take advantage of the narrations of the activities of the Lord, which are meditations on Brahman in the most convenient and palatable form. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Okay. So the main thing is the learned man describe the births and activities of the unborn and inactive. Who is that unborn? Who is the unborn here?
The Lord.
Lord.
Supreme Lord.
Yeah, the Supreme Lord, which is undiscoverable even in the Vedic literatures. So simply by reading Vedic literatures, we cannot understand the transcendental position of the Lord fully. This is jnana. Jnana yoga means through this knowledge, we are trying to connect ourselves with the Lord. Karma yoga, through our activities, we are trying to purify ourselves. Okay, that is karma yoga, jnana yoga. And what is given next in the Bhagavad Gita?
Bhakti
Dhyana
yoga.
Bhakti yoga. Bhakti yoga.
Bhakti yoga or dhyana yoga is in the middle. Means we have to actually meditate upon his activities, thinking about the topics and pastimes of the Lord. Okay, meditation. And the fourth one is bhakti yoga. The bhakti yoga is a very simple process. Through devotional service, dovetailing our activities in the service of the Lord will help us to actually reach that position. Okay, to understand ourselves and to understand our position and act accordingly. So we both are eternal. The Lord is also eternal, and we all are part and parcel of Krishna, so we are also eternal. The Lord is also appearing in this material world, and we are also taking birth in this material world. But what is the difference? What is the difference between us and the Lord?
We are
Qualitatively,
we are
Mataji. Quality and
we are
quality,
lit.
Mataji.
We are Anu.
Minute.
And
He is Vibhu,
Lit.
R
the
is
Lord is
Anu.
Vibhu. And we are Anu.
Okay.
Janma karma cha seedivyam.
The
His
Lord
We
is
are Anu.
transcendental, Mataji.
We are Anu and the Lord is Vibhu.
We are?
We are conditioned, right? We are conditioned jivas.
We are Anu Mataji.
Okay.
The Lord appears and disappears by his own free will.
Mataji, we are influenced by the three material modes.
Okay.
Mataji, we don't know all our births and different births, but Lord knows.
We have that 4 defects, no, Mataji.
Mm.
Cheating propensity, imperfect senses, so we can't
Understand.
yeah, we can't understand.
Okay. The appearance of the Lord is according to his own sweet will. Whatever form he wants to take, he will appear according to his own free will. But we, the living entity, will take birth in this material world according to our karma,
Karma.
the material nature. According to our karma, as per our desire, the suitable body will be awarded to each living entity. But the Lord is actually taking different forms according to his own sweet will. So that is the first difference. Okay, we cannot, even though the Lord is also coming in this material world, he is also doing activity, but his activities are transcendental. His appearance is transcendental. Our birth and our activities are not transcendental. One who knows this fact, Janma Karma Chame Divyam, somebody told, yeah. Janma Karma Chame Divyam, Yevam Yoveti Tatvatah.
Yatta deham punarjanma naiti mameti so Arjuna.
Arjuna, yeah. So what he says, what will be the result? One who understand or agrees this, what is the result?
Will never take birth in this material
Yeah.
world.
Never take birth in this material world. So that will be ceased. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita that Lord, his so-called birth in the material world and his activities are transcendental. So he will come on his sweet will. Okay. And simply by meditation on such activities, one can attain the realization of Brahman and thus become liberated from material bondage. And the solution is given here. How can we liberate from this bondage? Simply by meditating upon the topics of the Lord. Okay, we can actually remove our contamination. In the Shrutis, it is said that the birthless appears to take birth. Means the unborn is born. Why he is taking birth in this material world? He is eternal, he is transcendental. Why he is coming to this material world? Because we people, the conditioned souls, we are having a strong desires to actually enjoy these material elements. That's why we are coming in this material world. Why the Lord has come? What's the reason?
To deliver the pious.
Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya
Protect
dushkritam.
and to punish the miscreants.
Paritranaya
And establish
For the establish Dharma,
Paritranaya
Mataji.
sadhunam vinashaya
Destroy
dushkritam.
the miscreants.
Establish
Establish the Dharma, Mataji.
Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya dushkritam.
Dharma
Establish the
Pramataya
gift.
Samavami Yuge Yuge.
Okay, very nice. So, specially to please the devotees by seeing his pastimes, by actually relishing his pastimes, by discussing about his pastimes, the devotees will be very much be pleased. So, to please the devotees, he actually performs different activities, even though his activities are very confidential. Even to the Vedic literatures, it is not all his, it doesn't mean that all his activities are listed out in the Vedic literature. No, only one or two, few are actually mentioned in the Vedic literature. It is very confidential. The Lord, actually, the Ananda Sesha is always glorifying through his thousands mounts. He is always glorifying the pastimes of the Lord. So think about the pastimes of the Lord. Once he actually finished his activity in one universe, he will actually go to the next universe. I mean, he will continue the different activity. One place to another. This activity also eternal. He is keep on doing. So the Ananda Sesha is glorifying his pastimes continuously. So, but all those pastimes are not given in the Vedas. It's very confidential. Yet they are displayed by the Lord to bestow mercy upon the conditioned soul. Because by discussing about this activity, by hearing about these transcendental pastimes of the Lord, by remembering these things, will help the conditioned soul to come out from this conditioned status. Okay, so we should always take advantage of the narration of the activities of the Lord, which are meditations on Brahman in the most convenient and palatable form. So the conclusion and the suggestion and the recommendation is given by Srila Prabhupada in the end of the purport. So we have to always utilize this opportunity, okay, to come out from this ignorant status. Okay. So any questions, any additional points, anything to share? From today's session?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yes, Prabhu.
So everything is practical experienced. So questions were then and there solved.
Mataji, very
So
technical,
heart-touching
Mataji.
class, Mataji. Heart-touching class.
Technical.
Yes, everything is educated. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Yeah, we saw some technical Virat Rupa, Vishwarupa.
Mm.
Then we saw a lot of cloud sky analogies then.
Yeah. So it's
When we
not
saw a
of
lot of
information. We are simply understanding ourselves with the body, but it's nicely explained. We are not this body. Beyond this, the material subtle elements are there, and beyond that, the spiritual body is there. And the qualities are given. And how can we actually understand that knowledge, that solution is also given. And only thing is, yes, as Prabhu said, we have to practice. To understand our real position, we have to implement in our day-to-day life. only sadhanas, remembering the Lord, always associating ourselves with the Vedic literatures, associating ourselves with the devotees who are discussing about these transcendental topics will help us to come out from these three modes. Okay. Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you so much. Happy Damodar month to everybody. Damodar month is going to start from another 2 days. So complete Damodar.
From 17th, Mataji, from 17th.
Yeah, from 17th.
From the 17th.
Yes. So
Thank
have
you,
a
Mataji.
blessed
Same
month,
to you also.
every one of you. Thank you so much,
Thank
Mataji.
you,
Hare
Mataji.
Krishna.
Hare
Thank
Krishna,
you,
Mataji.
Mataji.
Thank you so
Hare
much.
Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Pranam,
Thank you,
Mataji.
Mataji.
Pranams, Mataji. Pranams.
Pranams Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Mataji, during the Damodar month, whatever we do, it will benefit in 100%. Whatever you, if we light a lamp, it will be counted. We have offered 100 lamps to Krishna. Correct, no, Mataji?
Yeah, correct. 100% correct.
Yeah.
It's given
Any
in the
good activities, all okay. If you do bad things, also minus 100%. So we got to be very careful.
Shastra. Mataji, it's better to actually think about do's. So
Yeah, but we
focus
have to know the other one
positively.
also. We got to know the other one also, no, Mataji, so that people can be careful. My Shiksha Guru taught us like that.
Okay. So the Lord is so merciful. So especially in this Damodar month. So this is the opportunity given. So let us be the good electrician, as we
Yes.
read, no? So let us utilize the energy in the right way.
Yes, Mataji.
Okay. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Manchakalpatarubhyascha,
Pranam, Hare Krishna.
Asya Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna, Maji. With all your permission, you'll end the meeting.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji has to end the meeting. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.